The things you can see how these, just knowing for instance that these panel lines up here are Zeus fasteners, so you wouldn't want to, if we're trying to do semis, you wouldn't want to put rivets there. Well, how would they get at the engine? But then from this point back it's kind of riveted from this point back, so you really don't have any Zeus fasteners except for the detailing around the canopy. Now this is the paintwork I really like the best here. I like this, the gray, the combination of the gray and the green. And on this model, when you put all three of them together, this clearly is the brightest of the three camo jobs. Okay, so again, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set up to do the bottom of the stab and elevators. And anything I like on the bottom, I can replicate on the top. Anything I don't like on the bottom, well, I can probably take it off, start it over, or whatever. But starting on the bottom of the tail, that'll be the place for this model. Having the books, so important. Good idea too. Now, I haven't cleaned the pens yet. Before I even start this, I'm going to go clean all the pens. I've done that on a previous video. Soak them in hot water, soak the tips overnight in hot water, put all fresh ink in them, clean them up, get them all starting to write on a piece of paper, and keep a piece of paper handy. If you run into a problem where the ink seems to be fish-eyeing on you, one of the good tricks, it's a Frank McMillan tip, is rub the whole surface with talcum powder. I have tried and used successfully to wipe, before I start any ink, wipe a surface with M600 very lightly, and wipe my fingertips too. Now my fingertips are usually pretty, they're full of paint and grease and who knows what else, construction work kind of problems, and I want to start with at least a chance of having clean hands. Now if you're comfortable using rubber gloves, and I'm not, a lot of people I know use rubber gloves and that seems to work well for them. I'm a lot more comfortable just keeping the tips of my fingers nice and clean with a little bit of M600 and a clean paper towel. So let's get started. What I did this morning, I like to bolt the whole model together, even though the hinges aren't permanently installed, because I want to see this in full detail. I don't want to be doing an elevator or stab without having the both pieces together. I don't want to do around the nose without having a cowling on. I can take that all into account when I'm working up there. So the first thing is to get the whole model put together, wipe it all down with M600. I do that off camera, get it all clean, get my hands clean, get the pens clean, and get ready. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this guy, flip him over, take a look at the bottom of the tail. I only have one pillow here to rest it on, so I can get a look at what the bottom of this looks like, then flip the bottom of this over, and then make a decision as to which one I want to replicate, which one I like the better of the two, and if I'm not happy with either one of them, I have the books. Shop here, I have several things. I keep one drawer with all my lecture sets, all my, I call it, man, I have my little box of canopy stuff. And I hope you enjoyed that little canopy video. That worked out pretty well. In this drawer I have all my ink, all these little templates, but it's a good idea to keep it all in one drawer. And it's a good idea if you know the trick of cleaning it. At the end of the season, clean it. I leave the ink in and then I just suffer. Right now I got to clean all the pens again. But I know a lot of people like Bob Martens, at the end of a season they have some way of cleaning them in an ultrasonic cleaner. I don't, and I clean them at the beginning of every season. It's usually a real ordeal to get them all back to writing. The ones with black tape on them, those have black ink. The ones with no tape have white ink. So I have a total of like 8 pens to choose from when I do 8 thicknesses, 2 different colors and 4 different thicknesses for each color. Now usually, if your hands are not too dirty, now you can't wipe this. Once you start inking, you're pretty much, you're committed to it, and you'll ruin the rest of the ink. But if you get one section done like this, now I'm going to have to make up some plywood templates, and it's a good idea if you build the same plane over and over, save the templates. In my case, I have some of them, but not all of them. Some of them are out on loan, but it'll give me a good excuse to make some templates and show how I line up the basic inking on one of these. And it wouldn't matter what shape it is. Your ink job can, follow whatever shape that the whole area that you're doing is. But the first thing, absolutely, totally clean it up. Now if this doesn't do it and we get any indication of fish iron, a little bit of talcum powder, and then just wipe it off. And that is a good tip, by the way. Now one by one, as I bring these pens online, it's always good to get them writing. Keep a piece of paper handy right by the place where you're going to ink so you can get them moving. The type of ink, I know I've gone over this before, but then there's white and black. You'll see it says for fast drying for film. The number is Black India Ink Rapidograph 3084F. One of these will last more than maybe 10 planes, I don't know. But I want to get, the first pen I'm going to use is a medium-sized pen, and I'm going to have to make a template because the stab shapes, in other words, here's the stab shape on the plane just to make it rough. This first piece on the other plane is slightly different, so I need to trace this piece onto a piece of 64th plywood so I have an exact template for that front line. Okay, now 64th plywood bends real easy one way and not so easy the other way. Well, obviously we'd like it to be strong in this dimension. This is where it's really handy if you have somebody to help you out. Because what I want to do here, this is the end of this. Obviously this won't go all the way to the fuselage, but we'll make the template oversize. And I want to get a line. And the way I make, see I can't even, I'm holding this wrong as it is. Once you make a template, assuming you're going to build a plane over and over again, you can use it over and over again. Now this will be our leading edge, and I'm going to show how to make one template in detail, and then the rest of them we'll just skim through. But we need the outline, we need the shape. So that gives us the original shape that we want to use. What we're trying to replicate is this line around here. So a good thing would be now to get a piece of 1/4 inch tape. That'll give us a constant thickness. Any template like this, and again, sometimes you have to improvise along the way. We could make this out of plastic, we could make this out of anything that'll give us a smooth surface. Let me just get around here and kind of follow that line. What we're looking for most of all is a smooth edge. Now that's the outside, this will be the inside. Now what I want to do is go over to the XL cutting pad and get a brand new blade and cut that as close as I can. These will tend to curl up. If you really want to make really professional templates, you can glue 2 pieces of 64th plywood together, but the edge that we're going to use has to be perfectly smooth. In fact, it's a real good idea when you're all done. You can even take a little bit of carnauba wax and put it along the edge. This is a little time consuming, because what we have to do is get this template, once it's taped down, to sit, and let me just replicate, just to sit up just a little bit. So we're going to put tape along just before the edge so that this edge doesn't touch the paper. The tail. Because what will happen, if it touches, ink will just bleed right under there. So what we need to do is just jack it up with a couple layers of tape. Once we sand the edge, a couple layers of tape on both sides will just get that up so that the ink doesn't run underneath there. The tip I use is that old roll of sandpaper. When you get the shape exactly the way you want, this kind of gets away all the high spots. And it seems like, oh boy, it takes time to make these templates. Well, you probably need maybe 20 of them on a whole plane. But if you build another Spitfire, or if you're building, let's say you're building an Impact, well, the next Impact, you already have the templates all made up, so your ink work just goes right down the road. But having the edge that the pen is going to ride on, that edge must be perfectly smooth for a custom template. The same way on those green, I don't know, drafting templates, you really have to have the edge. You can't get a drop of CA on it or anything. That edge, the pen has to ride right down that edge. So once you have that edge, now you can lay out tape on both sides of this that'll raise it up a little bit. 2 or 3 layers of thin tape on either side will hold that up off the surface. Now I can go put this in position.